Hey there, welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology for June 12th through the 18th. There's a lot of new and fresh energy that's coming in this week. We have a new moon that's happening over the weekend, and we also have Mercury and Neptune making some important aspects. So a lot of themes around new ideas, new insights, new awarenesses. A little bit of confusion in that process, but we'll talk about how to manage that. My name is Shauna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm excited to share the astrology of this week with you. So we have Mercury in Gemini this week, so it's just recently moved into that sign, and it's going to be making a square to Saturn. Now, Mercury is our communication, our thought process, and the way that we process information, the way that we make sense of things in a more logical way. It's our logical reasoning function. Whereas Saturn is about boundaries, structure, responsibilities. And when these two come together in this particular way, in a square with Mercury and Gemini, Saturn and Pisces, both mutable signs, so they're creating a square. This is where there's a little bit of tension around communication or thought processes. And this is because Mercury wants to move and wants to be free, especially in Gemini. There's a desire to talk and to share and to communicate. It's lots of movement. And Saturn reminds us that we have limitations in life, that there is only so much time, that there is only so much of your very precious energy that you have to give out. And it reminds us of the limitation of time in itself. And when these two come together in this aspect, in this way, it can sometimes, so it kind of depends on what's going on in your life, how you experience your current circumstances, and how you approach life. So this can sort of feel restrictive in some ways, because Saturn is about boundaries. And then Mercury is about our sense of making sense of things. So Saturn can have an effect where it feels restrictive, where it feels dampening, where it feels like a depressive or depressing or heavy even kind of energy. The other side of this is that it can feel very containing, that Saturn can help us see where our boundaries are, where our limitations are, and Saturn can kind of help us to course correct. To know, okay, this scenario or situation is diffusing my energy and my time, so I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to channel my energy where it feels like there's more flow and more life force and more give, so to speak. And maybe a mixture of these two. Now, that this is happening in a square aspect versus, let's say, like a trine or an opposition. Squares are where it kind of feels like we need to make a compromise with something. So it is like kind of a tense sort of energy. Now, the ways that this could manifest would be externally, maybe we need to be extra clear in our communication. To really be clear. Saturn loves it when we're clear and direct. Saturn loves it when we say exactly what we want and we say exactly what we mean, and we're not like depending on other people to sort of like pick up our cues. And so I think that that's important this week, is to be clear, be direct, and to ask what it is, ask for what it is that you really want. So that's sort of like the interpersonal external world scenario. The other piece of this is internally. So Mercury is our thought process, it's our mind, it's our problem-solving abilities. And internally, this may manifest as sort of getting possibly the potential for getting caught in fear or thoughts around limitations or restrictions, and feeling like maybe we don't have a lot of opportunities, or maybe feeling like we're boxed in, feeling powerless, essentially. So that is a feeling that can come up this week. And I would just notice and watch for when it starts to feel like you have, where you have to do something, where you don't have a choice. And to like notice that, oh, I'm noticing that I'm feeling really boxed in. I'm noticing that it feels like I have no exit or no good option. And to pull back as much as you can and look for ways in which you do have power and you do have autonomy and control over the situation. Might not be ideal, but it's still, the more that we can remember that we have a choice, that is going to be the gateway through a Saturn transit, whether that's happening just for this week, like with Mercury Saturn, or if you're having a Saturn transit to a personal planet or a personal point in your birth chart. Now, that reminds me that I wanted to mention that folks who are having a Saturn transit are ready. So if you're experiencing your Saturn return in Pisces, or if you have any personal planets that are in Pisces or any of the other mutable signs, this is going to be more impactful for you because it kind of like strikes it like plucks the chord on the instrument, so to speak, of Saturn. So mutable signs are, of course, Gemini and Pisces, but also Virgo and Sagittarius. So if you have Moon, Sun, Mercury, Venus, and even Mars in Gemini, Pisces, or Virgo, Sagittarius, this particular aspect, this Mercury Saturn that's happening this week, may feel more present for you. And so again, to really notice where you feel restricted and noticing like how maybe that can be a guiding force for you, and also to look for ways where you do have a choice. That's super important. Now, the other aspect that's happening this week that's connected in with this Gemini and Pisces square scenario is we have the Sun in Gemini. Happy birthday to my Gemini people. Sun in Gemini will be squaring, another square, to Neptune in Pisces. And this is connected in with the new moon as well. So, but just to focus on this particular piece for a moment, the Sun is our energy, our vitality, our inner energy. Got really excited there. It's that part of us that is unique and that animates us. It's also our success and our ability to be bold and to be brave and to be leaders in our lives, to be a unique individual. Now, when the Sun comes into contact with Neptune like this, Neptune tends to diffuse and sort of like melt anything that it comes into contact with. Neptune is a sensitizing, and it sort of like makes everything just, like spread out and kind of, Neptune connects us with the other world. And so this is really great if we want to be in a dream state or meditation or a flow state or do any kind of creative work, or just like totally relax and get lost in the moment. Neptune is great for that. That energy, that symbolism is challenging when we are trying to be a unique individual, which is the Sun. So those of you that have Sun Neptune aspected in your birth chart, you know that it can be challenging to have Sun Neptune together because people with Sun Neptune, they feel so connected to everyone else, and they feel connected to nature and plants and animals, and they can really feel into the energy of the room. And when you are that way, essentially an empath or a highly sensitive person, it can be very difficult to differentiate between what is yours, what are your feelings, what are your senses, wants, needs, desires, what is your identity, Sun, and what belongs to other people, like where that boundary line is. And so I'm sharing that with you because even if you don't have that Sun Neptune in your birth chart, we're going to all experience a little slice of that this week. So that may mean that there's a little bit of like feeling into other people's energy, feeling into getting lost in the moment, being more drawn to being in nature or being creative. And it can show up where maybe you're simply not clear on, like, maybe you don't feel sure about what your goals are this week. It can be as mundane as that because, again, Neptune just kind of like softens everything. So it's what's interesting is sometimes this happens in the astrology, right? So we have Sun Neptune, which is about going with the flow and sort of like having a little bit of ambiguity, especially around your personal direction in life. And then we have Mercury and Saturn, which is about like really wanting to get clear on stuff, like really wanting to know, Mercury, what your path, boundaries, and limitations are, Saturn. So we have these two energies that are very different. So there may be moments where you feel a very strong desire to get clear about things and to get into the specifics and the logistics. But then at the same time, there's a part of you that feels like things are just kind of hard to pin down this week. And that's okay. And we're sitting with that, and we're like allowing that and noticing what comes up, and we're making choices the best that we can moment by moment. Now, new moon in Gemini also this weekend. So that's the other piece of this, is that we're in the waning moon phase a majority of this week. Waning moon is about internal reflection, going inside. It's about having a slower and more low-key lifestyle over the course of this week. The new moon in Gemini is exact on Saturday, the 17th of June at 9:37 p.m. Pacific time. So we have all week where the energy is really just more and more focused on being internal. And then we have this new energy that comes over the weekend. We have this planting of seeds that is initiated Saturday and then continues to grow and evolve. And this is all around themes that involve Gemini. So Gemini, we've been talking all about Gemini. So a lot of Gemini Pisces that's happening this week. So Gemini is about communication, sharing, and novelty, like getting inspired by new and interesting and fun things. It's about Gemini has an energy of sampling. And I'm thinking of my clients who have their moon in Gemini. Moon in Gemini people, by nature, if they have that in their birth chart, they really love to like have all of these different projects. And sometimes they can be shamed for that or feel guilty or bad, like they should stick to something. And yes, that can be helpful, of course, if we have a lot of Gemini. But the nature of Gemini is to hop around, to be like a little butterfly that moves from one flower to the other. And so there's probably going to be a lot of that kind of energy this week because we're working with a lot of mutable energy, those signs, Gemini and Pisces, and then Virgo and Sagittarius. There's this theme with those signs around always changing, always transforming, having one foot over here and then one foot over here. It's about paradox for mutable signs. And so that may feel like you just kind of want to move and change your mind, and that's okay. That's what the energy is this week. And I want you to know that this new moon brings in new and fresh energy for you around themes of Gemini, which is communication, sharing ideas, connecting with others, social things. And it also is bringing new energy into the area of your chart, so the house in your birth chart where Gemini is placed, and that will give you even more personal information. So that being said, let's pull some cards for you. So of course, if you have a particular scenario that is on your mind, you can definitely hold that in your heart, or you can simply ask for guidance from your higher self, from your spiritual guidance team, your ancestors, for that to come through in a way that is most clear for you right now. Okay. Okay, a lot of strong energy here. So, Three of Voices. This is also known as the Three of Swords in the traditional Rider Smith weight deck. The Three of Swords is about sadness. It's about grief. It's about disappointment, and that this is the first card tells me that maybe there is processing of some sadness. Whenever this card comes up, it's usually also like not a sadness that was like shocking, that caught you off guard. It's more kind of like being disappointed that something didn't work out. And so the way, because of the other cards that I'll share with you in a moment, the way that I'm reading this is it's not that something sad happens this week. It's more about grieving possibly something that has already happened, maybe even a long time ago, and sort of like that feelings of sadness. I'm really thinking about the Mercury Saturn here. Feelings of sadness and grief and loss may come up to be processed, and that's okay, and that needs to happen. Saturn also is associated with grief and helps us to process the things that, it helps us to grieve that which we wish was different. And that's really what this card is about. So the second card is the Queen of Materials. So really interesting that this comes right after, because this card is about compassion and caretaking. It's really about taking care of yourself and having your needs met. Queen of Materials is also the Queen of Pentacles. So this is around physical, sensory security. And the Queen of Materials is also very connected to self-worth and honoring yourself, valuing yourself, knowing that you are valuable, knowing that you are worthy, and that your feelings and desires and wishes and dreams, all of those things are valuable, and that we need that we need you and the very particular way that you are. We need that in the world. Feels like a warm blanket after the tears. The third card is another queen, the Queen of Voices. This is also the Queen of Swords. And the Queen of Voices is about, so literally voices, about speaking, about leadership through wisdom, leadership through speaking and sharing and being bold in the way that you carry yourself, but particularly the way that you speak. Like, this is really about the way that you communicate, and it's about freeing your voice. I'm wondering too if maybe this week there's maybe like shame around the voice, like shame around like feeling like you can't, something around self-expression that may come up this week, because we have all of this Gemini energy, which is about the voice, about speaking, sharing. And so the three of voices is like that there's maybe a little bit of constriction here around the voice. That's another theme with Mercury and Saturn is, especially if folks have this in their birth chart, Mercury, Saturn in aspect, it can be sort of like feeling a little bit shy about speaking up and saying what it is that you're really thinking and experiencing. So maybe anything from shyness to even like feeling a little bit of shame about being real and being authentic and being honest. And the Queen of Materials is reminding you that's really, that your voice is very valuable, and that when your needs are met, that's when you can speak up. When your needs are met, that is when you can speak clearly and with authority and power. So, if you resonate with my work and are interested in either psychotherapy or astrology, I would absolutely love to work with you. I am taking on new psychotherapy clients, and I also offer astrology readings as well. So I'll have more about that on my website below. I would love to work with you if you're interested in that. I am sending you lots of love and wishing you a wonderful week ahead. Bye.